Hello and welcome. This is Talk to SSBC, where we discuss cross-cutting issues. My name is Duku Wilson, and many thanks for joining us on this special episode. Today, we'll be discussing about the South Sudan National Movement for Change activities and their preparations for the coming elections in December 2024. It is worth noting that the South Sudan National Movement for Change is a constituent member of the South Sudan Opposition Alliance, commonly referred to as the SSOA. With me in the studio, I am glad to be joined by Honorable Moro Isaac Genesio, the chairman of the South Sudan National Movement for Change and Minister for Local Government and Law Enforcement in the transitional government in Central Equatoria State. Welcome to this special episode. Isaac Moro, welcome to Talk to SSBC. And thank you very much for giving us your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson Duku, and thank you, the staff of SSBC, for the opportunity, and thank you, all the listeners of SSBC.
Yeah, okay, to start with, Honorable, if you can give a brief account of yourself and that of the South Sudan National Movement for Change.
Yes, my name is Moro Isaac Genesio, the chairperson of South Sudan National Movement for Change. I hail from Central Equatoria. The South Sudan National Movement for Change was formed as a movement on the 5th of January 2017 in Atlanta, Georgia. It had both military and political character, and during the peace, we accepted that it was not a wise idea for movements to run alone. It was better that we have to come in an alliance to have much more stronger position during the peace process, and then we formed the South Sudan Opposition Alliance. We became members and later on joined the peace process, and we have members who are in the government from national, state, executives, and members of assembly.
Okay.
So the South Sudan National Movement for Change is operating under the alliance, the umbrella of the Alliance of SSOA, but we have our own office, which is based in Munuki. I hope one day you'll be in position to come. We have a structure, which is the Leadership Council at the national. We have the state chairpersons, we call governors. We have the Youth League. We have a Student League. We have a Women League. And of course, we have so many leagues that respond to categories of the people that we have in our society.
Okay. Yeah. During the formation, were you part of the formation, or yourself, you formed the South Sudan National Movement?
The South Sudan National Movement for Change, we were a team of very many South Sudanese who had an idea to form this. And our leader then was Governor Bakasoro, who is currently the Minister for Public Service and Human Resource Development. And I was on the ground holding the military wing, with then our Chief of Staff, who also held out, is now lead. And then we had members also. And when we decided that we have to be part of the peace process, some of the members decided otherwise. And they, of course, remained back. And then we told them, no, the choice for peace is the right choice for the people of South Sudan. So we have to be part and parcel of this peace agreement, which is the revitalized agreement on resolution of conflict 2018.
What were the objectives or the vision, mission of this, like in your name, the South Sudan National Movement for Change? What do you want to change?
We want to change the perspective of how things are done, the governance structure, and our vision is a democratic republic of South Sudan. That is federal in nature, united in diversity, where peace, rule of law, right to life, justice, and prosperity is the norm for everybody. And of course, we had a mission. The mission during that time was to seek cooperation with like-minded people, like-minded stakeholders in South Sudan, for us to be able to engage altogether in reforms that shall bring prosperity for all of us. And these reforms are indicated, of course, in the vision, as I read earlier on.
Okay. You are a member of the South Sudan National Movement. South Sudan Opposition Alliance.
Yes.
And the South Sudan Opposition Alliance is a signatory in the peace agreement.
Yes.
What is your impression of the implementation of the peace agreement?
This is a very good question. My impression is that peace is a peace. There is no good peace and there is no bad peace as long as it is a peace. That was a resolution that all of us resolved as partners who signed the agreement, that the best way to move was a peace. And we were also aware of the fact that during the implementation, there are also going to be challenges. And one of the challenges was that the entire process of the funding for implementation of this peace was left on the people of South Sudan. So it was based on the economy, that things might move faster or things may not move faster. Though during the implementation, there were avenues to seek support from partners, from partner countries, and those partners that are also for peace to help us. But yes, we move a step, and we are appreciative of the steps that have been taken. We are already down the road, period, and we are implementing the roadmap that was agreed to conclude with the pending tasks that shall lead us now to election. And the impression is that, yes, some of the important protocols were not implemented, or they were not implemented incomplete, but every South Sudanese wants to see that there is peace. And we accept that for some time. Though it has not been holistic, there were some challenges, but as I said, we cannot say there is a bad peace and there is good peace. So we have to improve from the roadmap.
The roadmap came about a result of unimplemented provisions in the agreement, right?
Yes.
And there are some provisions that are not implemented yet. For example, the security arrangement is not completed, the constitution-making process. There's this issue of repatriation of refugees from the neighboring countries, and many other issues, even including legislation to pave the way for the issue that you're talking about. What do you think is of this roadmap? Is it going to be extended, or people will go to the elections just minus even implementing some of the provisions?
The most important thing is that we all want peace. This should be the underlying factor. This should be the determinant factor. And of course, these provisions were meant to reform certain challenging structures in the nation that needed to be put right. But again, we have also limitation in time and limitation in resources. So the most important thing on these pending tasks is that, to be very sincere, the security arrangement is one of the most important aspects of that,
yes.
Especially the unification of the forces.
Yes.
We still have forces at large. Some of them are in assembly areas, and of course some of these areas are inaccessible, especially to the government of national unity. Which is not a good sign, but I still hope that we have a year to go. The principals will be in position to call us together and say, okay, look, this is what has been implemented, this is what has remained. So we reprioritize which one can come first so that it can pave way for us to go for election.
Yeah, it's very important.
And the important
as you said, everybody wants peace,
yes.
which is the truth. But going for elections without implementing the key provisions, as you said, the security arrangement has not been completed. You know, this can be like a time bomb for the elections itself. Don't you think it would take the country to another step that nobody wants? What would you advise the principals so that these key provisions are implemented on time?
You know, when the agreement was signed, it was a negotiation of parties involved in conflict. It was not about the citizens of South Sudan. And as leaders, we have to look from perspective of we have divided the positions among ourselves. We are holding the positions.
Yeah.
What are the citizens getting in return? Do we have that consideration for the citizen of this country? And if we have the consideration for the citizens, it has been clearly outlined that by the end of the transitional period, there will be election. And this is like we have already concluded our part as leaders, and we are pushing it back to the citizens now to tell us who they want to continue leading us and who they want to remain behind, depending on how they perceive and they see our contributions what service delivery. Now, the challenge is that, yes, the pending tasks are not complete, especially the security arrangement, the constitution, as you mentioned earlier on, the repatriation, and so on. But most important is that we have to look at the compromises that can keep us sustaining the peace that already we have accepted. Because as leaders, if we continue sticking that this must be done, this must be done, yes, the provisions provide so in the RCs, in the roadmap. But what if there are challenges? What do we have to do as leaders? And that need us to have a compromise as leaders. This is number one. Number two, His Excellency the President has made it public, and it has been echoed in so many media houses and in so many public fora, that there is going to be election by the end of the roadmap.
Are you ready for that election? You as a party,
we are
South
ready.
Sudan National,
as the South
minus
Sudan,
the implementation of
not minus
provisions.
the implementation. There are exceptions to that. That's why I'm saying leaders have to come and sit and see that what is that position that all of us can be able to compromise in order for us to reach this election.
Okay, now I'm asking, what is your position or the position of your party in regards to this election?
Our position of the position of SSNMC is that this is now time for the leaders to move together. Leaders should be holding hands and move together to the states, move together to the counties, to let everyone know that we are about to go for elections, and we are united as leaders, that we need to have peace altogether. And this should be an inclusive process. It is not. It shouldn't be a process that is only echoed by one person. And leaders also should ensure that they have to restrain from making statements, uttering public statements that are provocative. Because at the end of the day, it is about the citizens. It's not about the leaders clinging to power. It's not. We are looking at building a nation. That's what we're talking about democracy. We are talking about election. It's a transition. It's a transition that want to transition this country to a democratic character, a country with a democratic character, a country that shall be, inclusive of all perspectives and all the interests of the people through electoral process, which, of course, we never know. There are those that shall come, there are those that shall remain behind, but it's still their contribution matter. So our position is that whatever it is, first of all, we need to come and sit as leaders. We need to sit as leaders and re-evaluate ourselves, because we have already the roadmap, and the implementation of the roadmap has not been to the expectation as we signed, as we agreed.
Why?
Now, as leaders, the challenges are many. The challenges are many. One of the challenges is that the issue to do with the funding, the issue to do even for timing.
Who is to fund this?
It is the Aratigonu. It is the Aratigonu to fund.
Yes.
But of course, we have economic challenge, which is worldwide. Of course, that is understandable. I'm not saying that should be used as a defense, but we also have to give a benefit of doubt that indeed the factors that have hampered the implementation of the pending tasks. So we have to take this into consideration. But doing this, we should be having frequent dialogue as leaders. Leaders should be in position to sit. There should be a conference of leaders.
Okay. You said already for elections. Are you going to contest a party or you are going to contest a SSOA?
We are an alliance. The agreement provides for registration of parties. The political parties council is not constituted. We had already applied for registration of SSNMC as a party, but yet SOA is going to sit. SOA has 9 political parties, and these political parties, depending on the perspective, depending on the interests at a particular time, when we are going for election, we might decide to remain as a SOA, or we might say, okay, let each political party go and register separately, and then we come back, we see the convenience where we can be able to either move together or we can seek other alliance.
Time is running out. Time is running out for all these kind of decisions that you are going to make.
Time is not running out because I have told you earlier on, the SSNMC has already an office. We have members already in all the states. We are qualified, just except the political party council has not been established.
How many members does the SSNMC has?
We have members in thousands, because the Political Parties Act provides that in each state, at least in 3/4 of the state, you must have 500 or more.
Have we started campaigns?
Which we have
Is
already
the environment already fine for you to start your rallies and what have you?
The environment? No, we cannot say the environment is 100% okay for us to start our rallies. But what happens is that my experience as the leader of SSNMC is that the trainings that we had, which are not of course a rally, we have leadership training that we conduct here in Juba. And of course we notify the political division, national security, and then they give us go ahead to do whatever we want to do. We have not yet witnessed issues to do with the harassment. But of course, when it comes to the time of election, there is always, perspectives of people change, and there is a foul play. So
I understand the South Sudan Opposition Alliance organized for a welcoming party for the Secretary General, for the Secretary General of the South Sudan Opposition Alliance, and that function was disrupted. What happened?
Who disrupted?
There was a function to welcome the Secretary General of the South Sudan Opposition Alliance.
I understand the question.
Did it take place or did not?
It did not take place.
Why?
Simply, it did not take place because of SOA internal issues. So we will not carry the blame to another person. And this is the first time one of the chairpersons of SOA opens up on the context of that particular. But what I want to tell you is that we have our own issues as a SOA, because we, as a SSNMC, have been conducting our functions without any issue. The NDM also launched their office, there was no issue. And then many more other, even the FDP headed by Honorable Hassan also launched his office, their office. It was there, and there was no issue about it. But the one of SOA typically was an internal issue.
An internal issue
that
made that function not to go ahead.
That aborted the function.
Themselves?
Yes.
Okay. So it means there are internal issues within the SOA members. That's why things were not going well.
Yes.
How does that translate now to the coming general elections?
I have told you.
Are you still going to hold on to SOA, or you are going to be independent?
I had already answered this question earlier on. We have 9 constituent members of SOA. Depending.
Why I'm asking this question, I'm asking in the sense that how are you going to solve these problems so that you move as organized as you have been to the general election?
I have not told you that we shall be moving as SOA to general election. It depends on the convenience of either to move as a SOA or parties within SOA to seek alternative alliances. It depends, because SOA has been there for the last 3 years plus. And of course there have been issues. And within these issues, parties study themselves. They see whom they can be able to move together with. But if it happens that we're able to resolve, as we are trying now to pursue measures to resolve the issues within, then it will come in a convention when we will decide that we either move together to register as one party, or parties will register, we come and then continue with the alliance, or parties will have to seek alternative alliance, or they will have to move alone as a party.
All right. So besides being the chairman of the South Sudan National Movement for Change, you are also the Minister of Local Government and Law Enforcement.
Yes.
There had been some allegations that the government of Central Equatoria accused you of insubordination and abdication of your ministerial responsibility. Is that true?
I read over the media. But what we have to understand about the local government, this is the third tier of government in South Sudan. There is the national government, there is state government, there is the local government that is headed by the Minister of Local Government. It's advised by the governor, and then also reports to local government board, as well as also to the governor. The minister sits in the Council of Ministers as well. So this is basically a tier of government, that is the lowest tier of government. Now, the local government is based on principles of decentralization. And of course, where there are tendencies to usurp these powers, always the law is clear. This one ministry that you cannot fail because it is guarded by its own act. So where there is where there is interference with the work of the local government, always there will be this challenge. Unfortunately, it is not the government of Victoria, because also of the government, but this was a statement that came from the spokesperson of the governor. But of course, I cannot rule out that there are no
Did the government, the governor himself request you to resign?
Yes, he did.
Why?
He did because the perspectives, right? You know, this is a government of a national unity. It is not a government of a single party where everything should be done according to the directives that are given. There are these laws that guide us. And these laws will come to hand back the one that make the decisions. So if there are such decisions, then they have to be communicated administratively with the evidences so that whatever I do, I'll be able to defend myself. But of course, this challenge is there, especially people are coming now for elections. There is that friction of placement and then seeing who maybe has the interests on what and so on, which is something that we should look beyond, because as leaders, the most important thing is that we should be able to send a message to the people that we are united. We should be able, to compromise and then dialogue where there are issues. But where we cannot dialogue.
Have you responded to the governor?
I have not responded to the governor.
What is going to happen?
Of course, I'm a minister. I'm a state minister. I'm still in my position. It was the peace process, the peace agreement that brought me to the position. As long as I'm doing my role, then I do not have any problem, except we have to engage again with the governor and then see where there is a deviation or difference in understanding of our role.
On that issue still, you wrote a letter to the president and also to the peace guarantors, explaining your issues to them. In the letter, you talked of being mistreated, or your party mentioned that the chairman of the South Sudan National Movement for Change in the Central Equatoria state government is being mistreated. One person, or that is the spokesperson, the party South Sudan National Movement for Change, denounced in a controversial way that responding to your letter, that Moro Isaac is not the chairman of the South Sudan National Movement for Change. What is that all about? Do you have different issues? Maybe you have issues in your party, the South Sudan National Movement for Change?
The person who wrote the letter contest legitimacy is not a member of South Sudan National Movement.
That person, because
this was according, a former member.
According to that letter, that person mentioned clearly that he is the spokesperson for South Sudan National Movement for Change and denounced you as being the chairman.
Yes. This person joined us in 2020 here in Juba. And then they moved the former chair to SPLM. They already moved it to SPLM. He's not a member. When we conducted the election, he has no idea he was a member of SPLM. No. So this is a new scenario that is coming up. But of course, everyone has a right to say anything, especially when there is a political disagreement.
But don't you think that one is damaging to your party? If at all he's not a member of your party.
He's not a member of our party, and we denounce that.
Don't you think it has a lot of implications on your future plans for your party?
There shall be implications because our spokesperson, who is Honorable Luka Gok, already refuted this publicly, that this is not our member, and we denounce these engagements and advise that this person looks for an alternative way of engaging politically, not to seek them through fighting. And I want to assure you that maybe the only elected person, chairperson of a party, currently within the SOA constituents member, myself, was formally elected on the 25th of September 2021, when the former chair left.
And the current chair of the South Sudan Opposition Alliance?
The current chair is Honorable Josephine Lago.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's go for a break. When we come back, we shall talk about whether the election will really take place or will not take place. How is the operation within the other political parties? You will share with us more on that.
Thank you.
Viewer, we are going for a short break. Please do not go away. We are back in a moment. Hello viewer, welcome back from that short break. In the studio, I am still with the Honorable Moro Isaac Genesio, the chairman of the South Sudan National Movement for Change, and also the Minister for Local Government and Law Enforcement in the government of Central Equatoria. We are talking about the activities of the South Sudan National Movement for Change and their preparations towards the elections in December 2024. Welcome back. Welcome back from that short break.
Thank you.
Yeah, as we concluded during the first segment, we were talking about the issues about your party as South Sudan National Movement for Change. You are not alone. There are also other political parties within South Sudan. How is the level of cooperation? Do you cooperate among yourselves to make sure that all the remaining provisions are put in place so that all of you move together towards one direction, which is general elections in December 2024?
Yes, basically the SSNMC is an open political party. As I said earlier on, we seek a common alliance for a reform agenda. And of course, those that also share with us the same values, we are proud to work with them. And of course, until now, SSNMC has no dispute with any political party. We're engaging within SOA. We are also engaging within other political parties, including the SLM, the SPLM-IO, the OPP political parties, the National Agenda. All of us are engaging. But of course, this engagement is limited to the fact that there are common values, common directions that we want to move towards.
A political party like SPLM, which has dominance in the Republic of South Sudan, they are very vigorously already mobilizing their members, moving to all the states. And you have not maybe started that same direction. Do you feel like left behind as the SPLM is doing a lot of mobilization in the country?
Well, it is a right of a political party to do so, to mobilize. But the statement that the SPLM is dominant, that one is in quotes, because for quite some time we have not gone into election. So it will not be appropriate to say there is a party that is dominant and there is a party that is smaller, maybe.
Analysts have said the SPLM is a dominant party in the republic of South Sudan, and of course it is the ruling party. It is the main party now in the agreement.
Do you also say this?
No.
Then it depends on perspective.
Because these are reports that have been published.
The 55% was for IT Gono, not for SPLM. And the IT Gono encompasses other political parties also. So it is inconclusive for us to say so, because what brought about this peace agreement was the challenge that there was a difference in perspective, there was difference in approach, there was difference in interest. And interest, we have not done adequate research to know that, okay, now the same that had gone into a conflict or into a disagreement have decided that now the members of the SPLM. The responsibility sharing cannot determine who is stronger and who is not stronger.
Let me give you one example, like the National Elections Act, which was already passed into law and signed by the president. According to some political parties, the SPLM, for example, the IT Gono, not really the IT Gono, Nunu Kumba, Right Honorable Nunu Kumba is the Speaker of Parliament, and she's from SPLM. And that National Election Act, according to some opposition members, that it was unanimously passed without considering some of the critical observations or suggestions or ideas from them. The act was just passed disregarding other political parties' views. You have members there. What is the concern on that?
First of all, the parliament has its procedures of operation. And of course, why they are voting sessions in parliament is to determine. Always people will not 100% say, okay, this is what we have. There must be an alternative view. That's why some of the people walk out from, and most of the people, some of the especially from the opposition walk out because they looked at the 5% that was empowered on the president to appoint members into, was like a miscarriage of an electoral process, which was also giving unnecessary power, maybe to bring people who were not elected, who were refused by people also again back to the government. And these people in one way or another will become, a challenge, and that is democratic.
Yeah.
And of course, that provision was brought in, and the rest of the members.
How did your members react to that?
Our members are not happy about it, but of course the president has already signed it into law. Do you want us to?
You have no option.
We have no option, but still our position remains. Though it is a law, we will have to make sure in the near future we'll have to cause an amendment to that, because we need to make sure that all members that come to assembly are elected. The other observation that we had also was the issue to do with youth. The percentage of youth has not been specifically mentioned, the 15%. 15%. The youth, people with disability, and so it was just a 15% provision that was there. And that was also a concern, but it has been already passed, and that was the national parliament. That was what the agreement detected, giving percentages that are abnormal in nature, and of course, this is where we are.
But the work of the parliament or the parliamentarians, it's to make sure that whatever that is passed should meet the needs of the people.
Yes.
How can you just say, because it's signed, we have nothing to do with that?
We can petition, and we will go the same rat race. The same constituents that passed it will make a decision that it has to go that way. And as long as they continue passing majority, then... So
meaning that some provisions that are passed there, not everybody is happy about it.
Not
including your party, the South Sudan
National Movement for Change is not happy about it, because we expected, we do not expect that there shall be 5% that will be appointed. Everything that we are trying to put to perspective is that we need reforms. Reforms have to start by us putting, a foundation.
But reforms requires that have to be done in a transparent manner and taking into consideration everybody's views so that no one is left behind.
This is not going to be true. It is not going to be practical, and it shall never be practical. And unless it is a single party parliament, as long as it is a multi-party parliament, there should always be those irregularities. A certain majority will always work for their particular interests. So, and it was the same thing that the parliament is not an exception to the processes of democracy. And even if we have to contest in a constitutional court, still it will draw us to the fact that there was a quorum and the majority had ruled over the minority.
Okay. So what do you plan for the future?
The future is that we are planning as SSNMC to build a party that is inclusive. A party that focuses on the idea of integrating the people of South Sudan. The challenges that we have in South Sudan were that most of the South Sudanese during the conflict, the then conflict for the succession of South Sudan, went to all over the world. And people came back with different perspectives. There was a conflict of perspectives, there was a conflict of interests, and of course there was a conflict of ideologies. Unfortunately, we did not come out as a nation to build a common direction. We did not build a common direction. We did not build an identity, the Republic of South Sudan. This is the central thing that is lacking. And if we have that, we have to do it by transforming the younger generation. This is a process, and the SSMC is focused on that. When you look at the demography of the SSNMC, most members are young people. Young graduates, students of universities, and those that see change. If you go to our office, some of the members are sleeping in the office. They stay there as a family. One day, one of the honorable members, who is the chair of Warab State, was telling me, the members were telling her, this is where dog, goat, cat, cow, every domestic animal live together and they live in harmony. And we are trying to build that perspective so that when this young generation grows up, they will have an identity that they want to build a nation. And that is our focus for the future. We want to build a liberal, viable, a political party that accommodates the interests of the people of South Sudan. And look towards the perspective of identity, building an identity wherever you go, you know where you belong. We build patriotism through this party. So that the notion of tribalism, the notion of sectarianism, the notion of regionalism, the notion of, we want to put this to an end. There is so much prejudice to do with that. That is the focus that we have as leaders of SSNMC, and this is what all the members are comprehending. And the thing that we have periodic leadership training. We bring members from all these states, we put them together, we hire people who can be able to teach on particular topics. There are those experts also from the civil society. We request them to come and teach this young generation about leadership, about how they have to go, about how they have to build cohesion, move in and develop a common
based on your analysis as the chairman of the South Sudan National Movement for Change, what are the most challenging issues in South Sudan currently?
The most challenging issues in South Sudan is the issue of insecurity. The issue of insecurity and the issue of the economy. These are two central issues. And we can never reform this economy if we don't put focus on the question of security.
You as now the South Sudan National Movement for Change, how do you plan to solve these two major problems that you mentioned?
One aspect is that we are preparing for election together, and always we have made our views non-public, that we need peace. And if we need this peace, we need to make sure we stabilize the security. And if we have to stabilize the security, we need to unify the forces and have a uniform force that is under one command, not two command. Because when there are people under different command carrying weapons, there is tendencies of, disobedience. And we don't want that, because South Sudan currently is grouped according to communities. And it is very sensitive. The perspective is simple. If I have issues with you, I take it to my community. You take it to your community, and then a conflict is drawn. So our voice has always been very clear. We need the security arrangement to be at least met, if 50%. Then the rest will be pushed as we go with electoral processes. But the most important thing is that we need to stabilize the security. So we unify the force. We deploy them in order to open for freedom of the free production and so on, and that will aid, to reform the economy that is ailing.
How would you reform the economy? Because that is part of the security that you are talking now. What about the economy?
The challenge of the economy is that our people now, most of them are in the IDP camps. And this is the population that is productive. As a leader, you have to look at the aspect of the people, because the people are the primary resource. The rest of the resources are secondary. If you put the people well, right, will be able to exploit the expertise that they have, and this expertise will result, to productivity. And this productivity, of course, will be able to curtail some of the challenges that we are going through. Like now, most of us are importing food. The areas that have been areas of production are not producing now. Now, we are importing food in dollars. We sell the oil with dollars. We are importing food in dollars. Yet the local revenue is in rands. And the balance of payment is not well completely. And how much ever changes that we make, we effect, we'll be using all these brains, but the most important thing is domestic production. And domestic production can only happen when there's security. And in every country, it is agriculture is a backbone. And that is what it is. At 99.9% of the South Sudanese. So there is no opportunity for them to engage in that. So as a government, we should be focusing on that aspect. We should be focusing on the aspect of stabilizing security. We tell the people, okay, you go back to your places. Government aids you. And this is geared towards that direction. If you can do one thing, only one financial year, it will solve problem for another financial year. And we'll be moving to another phase of development. But the base is that whether health or everything is determined by the food that we produce, what we eat into us. So that is a big challenge.
Okay, as we conclude, what is your final message to the people of South Sudan?
My final message to the people of South Sudan is this. This is a government of parties. It was a government that parties to conflict came, sat, and agreed that they divide positions for themselves, trusting themselves now to provide service to people. And the time is due now for people to determine who they actually want to come to this position of power. We have tendencies of leaders using their communities, mobilizing their communities behind them, rally behind them, their power. Citizens should desist from that. Because even those that entered into meaningless political wrangles have not benefited anything. At the end of the day, they are victims. Instead, the citizens should be united, and their voice should be very united. That we unite as citizens, and we want to make sure that the leaders are tasked to give us ground for us to be able to elect into office whom we think can be able to lead us, whom we think can represent us. So the citizens should be in position to unite as the people of South Sudan. It has been quite some time. The journey has been very long, but of course it's a process. This is one thing that we have to understand, is a process. And then we should be pointing out blames. For the last 3 years, what we embarked on as a nation was to make sure that statements are derogatory, the statements that are prejudicing one's right, one's belonging, and so on, we have to desist from this statement. As citizens, we have to look at the common factor. We are citizens. And by the way, we have the best citizens in the world. Citizens who are not used to civil disobedience. They take pain as it is. They can complain, but of course they continue working because they know they fought very hard in this country. And now they have the responsibility to ensure that there is a peace in the country by telling leaders, whoever wants to use is a community, whoever wants to use is a tribe, whoever wants to use his or her own region to hold on to power should be condemned, should be advised that this is not what we are going for. We are going to leaders whom we think can be able to lead us. And if you have your disagreement, please you sit around table, resolve them. The resolution we want from the citizens is that there must be no conflict again in South Sudan. We have to move whatever mistakes that we have to resolve together. We move together every day, put a step by step. One by one makes a bundle. So this is my message to my brothers and sisters, and I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to.
Honorable Moro Isaac, Genesio, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
I hope to you again in the near future.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to the SSBC and all the listeners for sparing their time to listen to me.
Thank you. We have come to the end of this program. Thank you for your time watching us throughout this episode. This has been Moro Isaac, Honorable Moro Isaac Genesio, the chairman of the South Sudan National Movement for Change and the Minister of Local Government and Law Enforcement of Central Equatorial Government. He has been talking about the activities of his party, their preparations for elections, and also many things. Of course, you have been following us, you watched and you know and you heard what he said. You are the judge. You know what to pick, and everything is here. Thank you again, and see you next week for another special episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.